allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa Bartram, a longtime Millswood science teacher, passed away Friday afternoon after battling cancer. She's remembered as a caring, passionate part of the Millswood school community. So in honor of her life and commitment as a teacher who positively impacted so many lives, we want to have a moment of silence in her remembrance, please. Moment of silence. Thank you. We'll have a report on closed session. As you know, we have no student representatives because they're out on vacation. Correct. Yes. Okay, appointment of Director 3, Nutritional Services. Mr. Porter, motion. Mr. Stroll, second, that the board approve the appointment of C. Betty Crocker as Director 3 Nutritional Services effective 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. I heard some chuckling. I heard some chuckling.
Chuckling in there.
Some chuckling.
No, they weren't.
Sound apropos. Thank you. Appointment of a high school principal, Julie Hamill. Ms. McFarland motion, Ms. Alexander second, and the board approved the appointment of Julie Hamill as a high school principal, location to be determined effective 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. Appointment of principal of alternative program, Vanessa Jara, or Hara. Ms. Ball motion, Mr. Porter second, that the board approve the appointment of Vanessa Hara as principal of alternative program, located to be determined effective 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. Appointment of high school vice principal, Hugh Lore. Okay, I'm going to mention his name shortly again. Mr. Porter motion, Mr. Stroll second, that we approve the appointment of Hugh Lore as a high school vice principal, located to be determined effective 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. Appointment of high school vice principal, Gary Connexet and Mr. Stroh second. Gary moved motion, Mr. Stroh second, that the board approve the appointment of Janine Waters, high school vice principal, located to be determined effective 2023-2024 by the following votes of 7-0. Appointment of elementary school principal, Ms. McFarland motion, Ms. Ball second, that the board approve the appointment of David Gutierrez as an elementary school principal, location to be determined effective 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. Appointment of an elementary vice principal, Sherry Alexander motion, Ms. McFarland second, and the board approved the appointment of Veronica Whiteley as elementary school vice principal, located to be determined in 2023-2024 by the following vote of 7-0. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Mr. McConnell said, motion, Ms. Ball second, that the board vote to reconsider closed session action on claim 621717 by the following vote of 7-0. Ms. McFarland and a motion, Ms. Alexander second, that the board reject claim 621717 by the following vote of 7-0. Ms. McFarland motion, Ms. Ball second, that the board vote to reconsider closed session action of claim 621727 by the following vote of 7-0. Mr. Stroll motion, Ms. Ball second, that the board approve claim 621727 by the following votes of 7-0. That concludes our closed session agenda items. Thank you. We have some recognitions this evening. California School Employees Association, Lodi Chapter number 77, 2023 Classified Employee of the Year, Desiree Wise.
Good evening, Mr. Young, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. We recognized our CSEA Employee of the Year during CSEAW Week back in June, or in May, and we did nominate and we would like to recognize Rodrigo Contreras as our CSEA Employee of the Year. Rodrigo currently is an M3 at our maintenance yard. He is our irrigation specialist. That's what he does every day. To be nominated for this award, it is 60% union participation and 40% job related. Rodrigo is one of the employees on the yard who reports to work every day, rarely calls in sick. He's one that you can depend on, and he's been my right-hand man since I've stepped up, and I appreciate him very much. So, thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Rodrigo, for all the work that you do for our district.
Thank you, Mr. Nella.
Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board. Neil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, we have a recognition of 2022-2023 communications intern, Chelsea.
Good evening, Board President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young, and Dr. Sally. I am so excited to be here this evening to share information with you about our first communications internship and introduce you to the exceptional 3 of the 4 students who participated in this year's internship. My name is Chelsea Von Gier. I'm the district's public information officer / grant writer. This evening I am joined by Michaela Cargo. She is a graduate of McNair High School. Kristen Gwen, who has just graduated from Lodi High School, and Jeremy Manwaring, who just graduated from Middle College High School. Unfortunately, Gurneet Kaur is on vacation. She couldn't be here this evening, but she is an incoming senior at Tokay High School. These 4 students were selected for the superintendent's first communications internship based on their submitted applications and written responses, their coursework, GPA, and recommendations from their school principals. Since late 2022, they have worked with me and the superintendent's office on a variety of digital communications projects. I will now have them share what they worked on, how they felt about their experience in the internship. And we have the first slide. Thank you. Next one. There you go. I'll have Michaela come up first.
Hello, my name is Michaela. This is my first board meeting, so this is kind of exciting. But anyways, on this, I mainly worked on the graphics during this whole internship, and like I worked on graphics that are posted on Instagram, like highlighting like the first day of spring that is shown here, and International Women's Day. And I also did a little bit of like script work when we had to work on.
Yes, you interview questions and script work.
We made promo videos, and also did this one thing where like went to there's an event coming that happened in my high school, and we took photography there, and it was like really exciting. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kristen, and I was mostly a photographer for this internship, and I used some of my experience from working at my church, and I took pictures at events like the mock interviews at Lincoln Tech that I was a part of. I did pictures for the Go for Gold night over at Lodi High for one of the students' brothers who had cancer, and we recognized him, and he's pictured in the picture up there. They all wore colorful shoelaces too as well. And then I also did events like concerts and some of the things they're having at schools, like the science festival. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeremy. So for my part of the internship, I was mostly just miscellaneous stuff. I worked on like a lot of things based on like what I was interested in. Examples are like I drafted nutrition services questionnaires and assisted in interviewing. I took promotional videos and photos at McNair's athletic signing event. I drafted area director press releases and created and managed meeting agendas during communication internship check-ins. And I also took a lot of promotional videos and photos. I know I've seen a lot of you guys at the graduations. I was so excited to see all of you and the graduates too at McNair, Bear Creek, and Lodi High. And I also created the script for the Middle College High's promotional video, which will be aired soon. And yeah, working with the internship has been like a really amazing experience. I really like to appreciate Chelsea for all her hard work in managing all of us and managing the entire social media. And yeah, that's all of us.
I'll have you go back one to Gurneet. Gurneet couldn't be here this evening. She's in New York with her family, but I did want to share some of the projects that she worked on. She took photos and videos during school activities and programs. She helped write interview questions and a script for a future promotional video. She worked on infographics for social media, including helping to standardize our branding on school site YouTube channels. And she supported the district during the Tokyo High graduation live stream with photos and videos. And then the next slide. In addition to the individual projects and task lists that the students maintain, they also came up collaboratively with different ideas. They wanted to work on group projects together. They had other ideas that they wanted to introduce. And so they did a number of things over the last 9 months, including Gurneet and Michaela worked together to create a new district overview infographic that was used in meetings with local legislative offices. All the students worked together to create scripts and interview questions for future promotional videos that we'd like to make about our alternative programs and school offerings. All the students worked together to launch a mental health awareness series on our social media platforms, and that featured students from different schools sharing how they dealt with stress or loneliness or sadness during the winter break. All the students worked together also on a script for a PSA that will be done in conjunction with the Sandy Hook Promise organization in the Lodi Police Department. And then most recently, Gurneet and Jeremy helped to create a TikTok series that featured our graduates sharing what they plan to do after graduation, and they helped with our graduation live streams to Instagram and TikTok and took photos and videos. So they did a whole host of activities, and I am extremely appreciative of the hard work that they accomplished and the dedication they showed over the last 9 to 10 months. They are incredibly charismatic and creative and innovative. They helped the superintendent's office to create new and engaging content for our community, work on new outreach efforts to our students, expand our district's marketing efforts with new promotional tools, and they provide us with a lot of ideas for how we could structure the internship in the future. So I want to thank each and every one of them so much for their help. We have a letter of recommendation that will be signed by Mr. Young that we'll give to them for future job efforts and endeavors, and we also have certificates here for them this evening. I would also like to thank Dr. Washer for supporting the creation of this internship and the leadership that she provided. I want to thank Mr. Young for his support and ideas throughout this process, as well as Jeanette Jimenez from our superintendent's office who helped with ideas throughout the internship. And of course, I want to personally thank the board for fostering an environment in which we can have creative and innovative ideas and opportunities for our students like this. It wouldn't have happened without your support. And then with that, I'd like to answer any questions you have, or we would like to.
Chelsea, could you have them tell us what they're going to be doing next?
So I'm gonna go to school for business administration, and I'm gonna kind of use it to like start my own business in the future, or start like help work on like in a company as well. And I kind of used it as I almost went into marketing, but it's a easier way to work myself up in any area of the company rather than just like marketing. So
What school?
I'm gonna go to Delta.
Delta. Very
Yep.
good. Very good. Thank you.
I've always been interested in something art related, so I would probably, because like I do a lot of drawing, and joining this internship has really like interested me into like graphic designing. So like I'm going to Delta first, then I would probably have like a transfer to somewhere, but like mainly it's something that's related to art.
Thank you.
For me, this internship really like helped me step outside my comfort zone. I usually don't do promotional events like this. I did a lot of miscellaneous organization, and I work best with people, and I really experienced that with this internship. For my future goals, I am going to UC Irvine for cognitive science and biomedical engineering. and I plan to work with neural engineering in the future, do research in that field, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Chelsea, you had great interns. I thought you did all the work.
Sure
No,
did.
you forgot. I was
Got that
mistaken. No, very good. Thank you for your work and Lodi Unified, and good luck to you in the future, okay? Thank you. That concludes our recognitions. Public hearing, declared public hearing open, 2023-24 budget adoption. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the audience? I declare this hearing closed. We have public hearing, declare public hearing open to local control accountability plan. Any board comments? Any public comments? I declare this public hearing closed. Next, we have our superintendent's report.
Mr. Nava, members of the board, I'd like to give a sincere thank you to our teachers, secretaries, custodians, paras, school counselors, and site administrators. School counselors and site administrators for all they did to make this year successful for our students. But I also want to thank all our support efforts throughout the district, from nutrition services to M&O, special ed services, accounting, budget, risk management, transportation, personnel services, purchasing, payroll, technology, after-school programs, facilities and planning, CWA, mental health, and a bevy of other amazing people who ensured our sites and kids had what they needed this year. Lodi Unified School District truly is an army of amazing people who give so much for our district and students. We all should be proud. Second, Michael, if you please put up the slide, I want to give attention to the Ride Across America fundraiser for our Got Kids in Lodi High Track and Field program, spearheaded by teacher Greg Wright. The goal is to raise $10,000 from this fundraiser. So far, we're right around $4,000, and that's what's been raised thus far. So if you haven't joined in, click on the QR code, make a donation. I can tell you it's easy to give because I did so earlier this evening. And if you don't have time to click on the QR code there on the screen, fear not. If you look behind Mr. Khan, you will see the large poster, and you can do so there. I did happen to see, Mr. Nava, your name on the list of people who have donated.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity. How Mr. Wright is going to sit on a bike seat for over 3,000 miles, that is hard to understand. But he is committed to the cause, and we look forward to him arriving in Boston sometime, hopefully early in July. We can't afford to lose him because we need him to come back next school year. So with that, I have nothing further, and I give it back to you, Mr. Nava.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for your report. I had no requests for speakers, Valerie. No requests? Anybody in the audience? I won't read the 20 seconds or whatever it is, so I'll skip that. I have public comments on consent agenda A. The public and student representatives may address the board on consent agenda A, routine business. Each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody on the audience that want to comment on consent agenda A? Routine agenda. Ms. Wilkins?
Yes. Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Mr. Young. Do I have to pull it and you can consent the rest and then speak to it, or do you just want me to ask my question? How do you want me to do
Mr.
this?
Young?
Yes, if you would just ask your question, and would you reference the specific component within the consent agenda, that would be appreciated.
Perfect. So it's item A12, the approval of the essential courses textbook adoptions. So I just have a question on whether this is supposed to be just for special ed. I realize it's high school special ed, but it's also going to need to be used for adult education as well.
You can refer that.
Yeah, Mr. Nava, if you would like an answer to that,
Yes.
I can refer to.
Sally? Dr. Sally?
This is targeting the special ed program at our high schools. There are some continuing education adult students who are special education until 21, 22. They may also benefit from this, but the primary purpose and 95% usage would be at our high schools.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Consent agenda A, routine business. Any board members would like to pull any of the items? Being none,
To approve consent agenda A.
Mr. Knaxet moves to approve consent agenda A, second by Ms. McFarland. We need to have a board vote.
Just want to make sure it's turned on.
There we go.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We're going to consent agenda B, student discipline cases. Any comments from the audience on discipline cases? Board?
President, now I move to approve consent agenda B.
Mr. Knaxet moved that we approve consent agenda B. Second by Ms. Ball. Board vote, please. Motion carries 7-0. Other action items? Item OAL1, proposed decisions regarding a petition for unit representation by the California School Employees Association of classified employees of Joe Serna Junior Charter School. Mr. Young.
Yes, before you this evening is part of the process for the non-certificated employees of Joe Serna Junior Charter School to have the opportunity to negotiate or have CSEA negotiate on their behalf so that they have a collectively bargained agreement with Joe Serna Junior Charter School. You should be aware that this first went through the advisory committee, the Joe Serna Junior Advisory Committee, and if you approve, it then gives the opportunity for that process to begin for that collectively bargained agreement with the Classified School Employees, California School Employees Association.
Thank you. Is there any board comments? Any comments from the public?
Good evening, Mr. Young, Mr. Nava, members of the board, Desiree Wise, CSEA president. This is an item that we do fully support for the Joe Serna classified staff. They would not be a part of our chapter. They would be creating their own chapter, from my understanding. They would be our local brothers and sisters, and we do fully support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. I need a motion on this, please.
All motion.
Motion by Mr. Strode. Second by Ms. McFarland. Let's have a board vote.
Can you do a voice?
Voice vote.
Having some
Technical difficulties, so we'll have a voice vote. Mr. Porter.
Aye.
Ms. Ball. Mr. Knaxet. Mr. Strode.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland. Ms. Alexander. And Mr. Nava, aye. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, item OAI 2, declaration of need for fully qualified educators. A declaration of the need for fully qualified educators must be on file in the commission before the district may apply for any emergency permits. Dr. Dostie.
Good evening, Mr. Nava, members of the board. Mr. Young, this is a routine matter that we bring for your approval to make sure that we are able to provide the actual support and internship that we need to fulfill the necessary position of the district.
Thank you, sir. Any board comments? Any comments from the audience?
Good evening again. So I read your declaration, and I'm very concerned about the fact that you're asking for 100 interns and that we have openings for 30 SEC teachers. I am concerned about the impact that's going to put on our existing teachers. I know that this year we had several in secondary teaching 120 contracts. Basically, that meant that they were working through their prep periods. And also, I'm very concerned about being able to provide the services to our special ed students with the amount of openings that we have in special ed. Of course, the Lodi Education Association would like to work with the district to figure out how to fill some of these vacancies, looking at maybe some innovative programs. I know we had talked earlier and you had approved a teacher residency program, but how do we get that staffed? How do we get that, get the educational support that these people would need to have a residency program here in the district? But again, it really comes down to the students. How are we going to support our students with the amount of teacher openings that we have? So I look forward to working with you to figure out some solutions.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? I need a board motion by Mr. Porter to approve, second by Ms. McFarland. Let's have a board vote. If you fix it, thank you. Motion carries 7-0. We have another one, the provisional intern permit approval. Dr. Dosti.
Again, Mr. Long, members of the board, Mr. Young, this is a request for the board to approve for us to provide provisional internship permits for a small number of individuals of the district.
Any board comments on this? Any comments from the audience? Motion approved. Motion to approve by Mr. Porter, second by Ms. McFarland. Let's have a board vote. Okay, thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, Mr. Dosti, you got resolution 2023-48 for the hiring of short-term classified employees.
Yeah, this particular resolution requests your approval to hire short-term classified employees.
Any board comments? Any comments from the audience? Motion by Ms. McFarland to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stroh. Board vote, please. Motion carries 7-0.
Again, Mr. Novel, members of the
Yes.
board,
One more time. Okay.
routine personnel matters are available for your consideration.
Any comments from the board? Audience? I need a motion. Move to approve. Move to approve by Mr. Knaxat. Second by Mr. Porter. Board vote, please. Motion carries 7-0. Now we have some report items. Joe Serna Junior Charter School Annual Update. Dr. Sell.
Good evening, President Nava, members of the board, Superintendent Young. We have a report for you of Joe Serna Charter School, our annual update, and Principal Alejandra Estrada is here to present to you the status at Joe Serna.
Welcome, Mrs. Estrada. Welcome to the board.
Thank you, board members. So good evening, President Nava, Mr. Young, and board members. Thank you for having me this evening to provide an update in regards to the Joe Serna Jr. Sorry. I'm here to provide the annual report for Joe Serna Jr. Charter School. Next slide, please. So here I'm providing an update on the executive summary, which will look at the student attendance, suspension data, state and local academic data, and some focus areas for the upcoming school year. Next slide, please. So here we have attendance data. As you can see, it's pretty, very good. We have very low students who are missing. Next slide, please. Our suspension data also indicates low suspension. The next slide has state and local assessment results from the California dashboard. It provides information about English language arts, mathematics, and English learner progress. Next slide, please. And here's a breakdown specifically for each of those content and each of those subjects for English language arts. The next one indicates for mathematics. And the last one here also indicates information for English learner progress indicators. Our LPAC scores indicate the different band levels from level 1 to 4 and our overall proficiency levels. And then we also have the CASP data and for language arts and mathematics and the percentages where we are at. The focus areas for the upcoming school year will be to continue building team building and meetings during staff meetings and ensuring that we are aligning with the mission and vision of Joe Serna. The recurring meetings will continue with the budget director to review expenditure reports and aligning that with the LCAP. Also continue our iReady mathematics due to the availability in Spanish and English, and also alignment with LUSD. Another essential component will be to be building relationships with parents and collaborating with our Serna PTA and identifying additional ways to continue parental engagement. We'll continue enhancing our safety procedures by the use of safety vests and ensuring that, the staff is wearing the safety vest during all activities, especially during dismissal, so for easy access and visibility. And the last piece here would be to examine implementation of the behavior positive intervention and support. Any questions?
Any board comments? Mr. Porter.
I noticed that your mathematics is struggling, which seems to be endemic of our entire school system as well. With iReady, what is the data on iReady and its successfulness in improving math scores?
I don't have that information with me right at the moment, but it's something I can look at and see how the fidelity of the teachers using it. I know that they all are, and the teachers did share with me some of the progress they had made from the beginning, from like the very initial assessment to where the students made band growth.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have it all.
You used iReady this year?
Yes, we did.
And did you run benchmarks at all with that? Or within the program?
No, so we just use specifically iReady, but since we are dual language, most of the iReady is taught in Spanish, except for our middle school. So 6 through 8 has it all in English, and then K through 5 is all Spanish.
Yeah, I guess I was asking, were you able to quantify any progress during the year or negative progress? Because there is such thing as negative progress, I guess. With mathematics. Because it seems like, this is not just your problem, it's a problem across the board. I was wondering if you felt iReady was improving your scores. How did it look compared to last year?
So I would have to look at the data from last year to see how much increase there has been, because this is the first year certain teachers have actually used a program where everything else has been teacher created and along the way. So I know before they would use Swan Math, which was a program available in Spanish. And so they would use components of it. But when we would have the iReady consultant come out to the school to do the 2 data dives into it, and they were seeing that students were making growth, but one of the hardest pieces was very early on in the school year, the Spanish component wasn't open yet.
Okay.
And so the teachers struggled to really fully implement because the Spanish piece was not yet available.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
I would believe that. I mean, it's an area we still need to continue focusing on. And
Well, I know that we roll out a lot of these programs, and I'm always curious about the data behind how successful they are. So that's my question to you. So thank you very much for your answers, and thank you for your presentation.
Any other board questions or comments? Comments from the audience? Thank you very much for your report. Thank you.
Mr. Nava, as she's sitting down, I just want to say that Alejandra Estrada has been a great gift joining our team, coming to us, and she has really done a phenomenal job of riding the ship. And ship is appropriate because at times it was flooded and you needed a ship out there. But she always has that smile on her face, and she is always a positive reinforcement at Joe Cerna Junior Charter School.
Nobody ever said it would be easy, you know.
I just keep saying, you're doing great. Keep moving along. You're awesome.
My father just had the employee get the award, it was an irrigation.
Yeah.
So
We should have talked to Rodrigo. That would have been smart.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
your report. All right, we have the 2023-24 school plan for student achievement. Dr. Sally?
Mr. President, now members of the board, and Superintendent Young, there's quite a list of reports here. Many of them are related in some regard, and most of them are Title I reports. The school site plan for student achievement, also known as SIPSA, is presented to you by each site here this evening for your review. And these are required of federally funded Title I schools to address their goals and their success and or challenges with their program and their involvement of families as well. So these are the school site plans for your review.
Thank you, Dr. Sally. Any comments from the board? I know most of us all read all the reports.
The only
Yes.
thing I really want to say is thank you to the principals and their sites for putting these reports together, and your office, Dr. Sally. If you peeked at them, they are quite an endeavor, and so I know it's part of their job. Thank you for the effort that was put in on them.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Any other comments, Mr. Connexon?
My only comment would be, was there any giant surprises that we should be aware of? Good, bad, or ugly?
I wouldn't say surprises. The
No
principals-
giant ones.
No giant ones.
Yeah, we should be.
To Ms. McFarland's comment, principals are adept and skillful at looking at their plans and their budgets, and many of them are veteran Title I. There's a few new to Title I environments, but I think that it's become pretty standardized how they're operating, so I wouldn't say any giant surprises.
All right, thanks.
Any other board comments?
Mr. Nava, I would just add one other piece. The great thing about getting these done now, and I know school sites have said this in the past, when we wait until October or November to approve these, by the time we begin expending those funds, it's late in the school year.
Sure.
By completing this process the way they did, July 1st, they can begin that process of spending those dollars, which is so critical for our school sites.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All right, Dr. Sally, you're still on for 23-24 school site comprehensive support.
Yes, I'll put it on the list. And these will be returning next week for action.
Okay.
So this is just report session. The school site also plans, the CSI and ATSI are required of certain schools. The CSI schools are comprehensive support and improvement. They've been identified by one of two criteria. One is a low graduation rate, and/or they're in the lowest 5% Title I sites as far as performance. And we have Turner Academy and Park Lane and the Sierra Middle, and I think that's it this year. A couple did get exited from the last year. Anyway, they will also report on a plan to address their criteria for which they were identified. And in this, they also have been added the additional targeted support and improvement, ATSI metric. This is related to individual subgroup performance at a school, not the entire school. So the CSI schools are identified by school site. The ATSI are identified by an individual demographic in a school site. For example, this year in California, last year in California, just over 1,000 schools were identified as ATSI. This year, that number jumped to over 6,000, and our numbers jumped as well. One of the triggers that added a lot of those to the group was that they added the demographic of 2 or more races, and that's not generally a high number of students at each site, so it doesn't make too many students in or out to trigger the qualification. In addition to that, students with disabilities was often a triggering factor as far as getting the criteria and them identified. And the third group that brought some of our schools into the ATSI pool was the African American performance. And so these schools then are required to write a plan of improvement to address the criteria with which they were identified.
Thank you, Dr. Sally. Any board comments? Quick comment by Ms. Ball.
It's a question that I have.
Question?
Are these just focusing on the academic performance, or are they also, because I don't see any mention of absenteeism or?
The one that the CSI does address, one of the criteria that would identify you is the low graduation rate. Now, our schools are not high schools, so they're not qualified for that, so they didn't fall under that. But that would be one of their criterion. It is academic generally, or then graduation rate. If there isn't behavioral per se.
Any other board comments? Any comments from the audience? Thank you, Dr. Sally, for your report. We'll continue on with the other report. You're still on, by golly.
Yes, also for a Title I school, they need to have a parent-family engagement strategy to address their outreach, to include parents and engage parents in their school activities and their student education. And so the schools will identify the manners in which they communicated with parents, in which they involved parents and informed parents. And so this is related to that aspect of Title I funding. So for the schools identified, those are all Title I sites.
Thank you. Any board comments on this report? Any comments from the audience?
President Nava, members of the board. One of the things in the LEA contract is that we do have some parental at after-school activities, and some of our teachers are feeling like they are being exploited and being asked to come back to school or spend time after school for some of these parent involvement activities. And at the schools, to be honest, I'm looking at this list, at the schools that I'm hearing this from, most of them are not Title I schools. Some of them are, but most of them are not. So I think one of the things that we are going to need to talk about is what kinds of activities are going to, that you're going to be asked of teachers. And also too, even though we've got these things, say, on the board, I've read a few of them, they say, well, we want to do this and we want to do that. even if teachers are involved and are trying to do these activities, there's no way to ensure that parents come to these events. So I would like us to think about some other things that might make it attractive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Make it attractive for families and parents to come to these events and make it more worthwhile. Yes, it's cute in elementary school when the kids, put on a little holiday show or, showcase, a musical showcase, something like that. But when you start to get into secondary, it becomes problematic sometimes. There are some parents who want to do that, but at that age, I can tell you there's a lot of students who don't want to participate. If they're not participating, their kids aren't coming there. So maybe have some other parent activities, such as I know we used to have classes in parenting. I know we used to have speakers talk about some of the things going on in the community. I think right now, getting speakers out to the sites to talk about the threat that fentanyl has in our communities. These are the kinds of things that I think would be more beneficial and actually be bigger draws than some of the things that I've read in these plans. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? So, Dr. Sally, thank you for your report. You're still on.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay.
The next item is the Arts and Music in Schools funding, also known as Proposition 28, which passed in California last November. The funding amount is set by the proposition. It is tagged or aligned to the state budget. So depending upon how the state budget goes this year, we're hearing obviously there's a deficit, but it's set to be measured against the state budget and Prop 28 numbers and dollars. But all that to say, the initial amount which was expected will be a little lower than what we had expected, but probably only in the less than 10% points, depends upon how the budget comes out. But being a proposition, the governor can't simply cut and change, and the legislature can't cut and change as they do with other programs. So this money is relatively secure. And it is written a little differently or interestingly. The funding is allocated by proposition language directly to the sites. It is allocated in a factor of 80% is for staffing. Could be classified, could be certificated, could also be outside consultant contracts and such. And then 20% for resources, materials for programming. It is, in that allocation, it becomes difficult for a site to quote unquote hire a staff member. They generally elect to team up or partner up with another site. But in that though, over the years, that 80% is going to roll over until a time comes where there's a change into the proposition. I see that being problematic. There are some sites that have partnered with one another this year to make benefit of that. But the proposition requires a plan by the site principal because the monies are allocated directly to the principal. And those plans are set forth for here to review. They are, again, speculating on how they might find staffing to meet the need. They can certainly identify resources and materials they need for their programs, whether it's paintbrushes or musical instruments. The challenge being, just to draw a picture, this is roughly $1 billion in the budget, and if you were just to take that 80% and hire instructors or paraprofessionals or whatever, let's just say instructors, you could hire in the state about 6,000 VAPA or arts teachers. They're not 6,000 VAPA teachers in the nation, I don't think. So it's a big challenge. I'm not sure the fix for this yet because of its being a proposition makes it harder to modify. Anyway, the principals have put forth their best effort at a plan in order to comply with Prop proposition and also to set their plans for use of the money.
Thank you, Mr. Sally. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Thank you very much for that report. We have one more for you.
Last one.
Local control.
So also for Title I schools, it is required that they align their services and actions and goals from their use of the federal funds to state goals and practice or goals and objectives as well. So this addendum, as it's called, the LEA addendum, speaks to the alignment of federal and state requirements on the schools.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Well, you're finished on that report. Okay, let's go with Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Nava, members of the board, and Mr. Young. Staff is seeking direction from the whole board to work with the board's facilities committee on the items listed on this document presented, plus any that the facilities committee would like to bring to the discussion as well. Not to leave the entire board guessing as to what we're thinking, but staff does have some suggestions as we move into the next round of bond construction projects. The board has somewhere in the neighborhood of $90+ million remaining in its Fund 23 after all of the past and current projects complete. That's somewhere in the neighborhood, I think, of about $18 to $20 million more than we're basically under budget. However, as we moved into design with specifically the Vinewood and Lakewood schools, staff has reached some concerns that we'd like to present to the committee, and we have some suggestions that if they were to continue to the entire board, they'd actually require alteration of resolutions 2018-08 and 22-22. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Yes, Ms. McFarland?
Mr. Khan, we did a tour of a school last year. You and I and Mr. Heberly had some great conversations, and I'm expecting to see it on here, and I don't see it anywhere. And I'm curious if this fits into the next grouping under Measure U.
The school in question will definitely fit into the next group.
And when we say fit in, what do we mean by that? Are we talking about just 2 classrooms and just maybe a gym, or are we going to?
You've got 2 classrooms designed right now and DSA approved. That's part of the 2018-08 resolution you have. What are we talking about? Let I know.
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing,
But I should have clarified.
but I know. You've got 13 portables under 22-22, resolution 22-22. Staff presented a concept of replacing all of those portables with permanent housing, as well as possibly a practice gym of CIF dimensions, but not quite to the same level of practice gym that we completed at Tokay.
I just want to make sure that when we're building classrooms, that we are shooting high versus low. In other words, 2 is great, but I'm hoping that when we talked about, I know our wants were many more than 2. So I will continue to bother you about that.
Well, I think that, Ms. McFarland, if I may, what you're referring to is replacing the 13 portables and possibly a practice gym as well.
Correct.
That is in your 22-22. That's our direction right now. The board has sent us on that mission.
Yes.
As part of this discussion, I don't plan on altering any of the concepts that are in 22-22 for Lodi Middle.
So in replacing the heating and air conditioning units, is that going to do anything? Will that hinder, or how does that affect this moving forward?
Doesn't affect.
Doesn't affect it. Just want to make sure. Okay, that's my questions. I'll just keep
And
asking.
that, to remind the board, the HVAC project is actually being funded out of the ESSER 3 money.
Okay.
While we still have access to it.
in the fall, correct?
Well, it's,
Late
no,
summer,
it's going right now. The mechanical unit should arrive sometime in the fall.
Thank you.
Any comment, any other comments from the board? Small?
I think this is a great direction to start with for the committee meetings. We should plan on, maybe set up some time where we can all meet and then take the points that you have already put aside and then report to the board from there, rather than making sessions now.
If I may, Dr. Ballward, staff is hoping that we can get 3, maybe 4 meetings completed with the facilities committee by, say, the end of August. That can go to a board report in September, and shortly thereafter we can start awarding architects and design contracts so that we can start moving the process forward on all of these constructions.
I think that seems like an achievable goal.
Leonard, do you have a time for removing those portables and replacing them at Lodi Middle?
Well, I don't, Mr. Nava, but I can tell you that, so the reason we're asking for this now is if we can award design contracts to architects in September, then architects can deliver schematic drawings that we can put in bid documents, especially under a lease-back type of procurement, that we might be able to get to market, say, in December. And if we can get them to market in December, you can actually award construction contracts for all these items in February, maybe March. And then there will be a pre-construction period of design that would start immediately, go probably into the late spring, maybe into May. And at that point, you'd have something that could go to DSA. By that time, I think you could start building September 2024. Thereabout. And I think that's a pretty conservative timeline.
Yeah, okay. I hope it's sooner than later. Yes, Mr. Porter.
One of your bullet points, you say potential for new bond measure. Can you elaborate on that?
The board has current bond indentures that are maturing to the extent that if the board were to prefer to keep the current tax rolls roughly even with what they are now, in 2 years, if, as those bonds mature and the board possibly issues new bonds and keeps the tax roll level on the current, as current homeowners are paying, we project the board could raise as much as $180 million. If the board were to avail itself of the full extent of the Prop 39 laws, that being $60 worth of $60 per $100,000 worth of home valuation, the board could raise roughly $350 to $360 million.
What do you need in order to?
Well, it would depend on what the facilities committee directs us to present to the board. Honestly, my guess is with $180 million, you could probably come close to replacing all of the portables in the district, as well as addressing some of the wish list that the sites are currently working with LPA on as well. With $350 million, the sky's the limit.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the audience? Thank you, Leonard. I think you have the consensus of the board, unless some board member refuses to give them any consent. Sooner than later, I would think. I think you're okay.
Mr. Malva, so for the facilities committee,
yes,
Julie Winters will be reaching out to you to start scheduling 3 or 4 meetings.
Yes, you know our committee is Ms. Alexander, Ms. Dr. Ball, and Mr. Connexa.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your report, Mr. Khan. Comments from employee representatives.
Good evening again. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I'm really happy having served several times on a school site council that you're bringing for the school plan for student achievement, because I know as a member of a school site council, trying to get that together and then get it to approval, like Mr. Young said, by the time we get the money, we're all scrambling to get in the orders and make sure that that money is spent. I would like to suggest that those Title I schools, and this is in support of my classified staff members, that the school site secretaries, the principal secretaries who are in charge of the Title I budgets get the adequate training, because it's not easy for them to put all the purchase orders in and get it done, and they might also require some additional hours to get this done in a timely manner. So that might be something the board would want to consider ongoing. But I'm happy that we're going to be able to, starting hopefully in July, get this going and be able to go forward. The only other comment I wanted to make is kind of a story. I was out in the community, and I ran into a parent, and he asked, "How's it going?" I said, "They're gone." And he said, No. They're gone from you. Now you stuck them with me." So I was like, oh yeah, you're the parent though. Deal with it. I was able to participate in some of the award ceremonies, as LEA does give scholarships to students who want to become teachers, and that was really rewarding. One of the ones that I got to present to was also at the graduation for Liberty High School, and I just love the smaller schools. I think it's so much more meaningful. It seemed to have these kind of students, because to me it seems like they worked really, really, really hard to get there, and it was just really rewarding. And I know that I saw some of you at these events, so I'm glad that you were all able to participate, and I'm sure you agree with me. So again, I just look forward to working with the board and Dr. Dosty. I'd like to get to the bargaining table, because I think some of the issues that we're facing are things that we can discuss at the bargaining table and come to some agreements on how we can collaboratively work together to do things like fill the shortage we have for teachers. I know we passed an MOU recently to help special ed by giving them a stipend, and for us to be competitive, I think we at Lodi Unified needs to really promote that more. I haven't seen a lot of that in being promoted. I think we can do some other things like I talked about, getting teacher residencies, working together to figure out how that works. And maybe even starting to talk about a community school to get more parent and student engagement. One of the things that I know that was brought up with the LCAP was the fact that we have some attendance issues. And I think, again, that goes back to being engaged. So we have to get our students engaged. And as teachers, we all want that. So looking forward to working together to figure some of those issues out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Nava, Mr. Young, members of the board. Desiree Wise with CSEA. I just wanted to make a few comments tonight as we move through summer and in preparation for the next school year relating to bargaining. We are actually having a special meeting tomorrow night with our members. We did inform them before they left for the summer. We have prepared our sunshine proposal for the board and to begin the negotiation process, and I'm pretty confident we will present that to our members tomorrow night and it will be passed. Our goal right now is to be prepared when school does start in August to come to the bargaining table instead of waiting until August to start the sunshine process. So we look forward to your guys' sunshine. You probably will hopefully see ours at the next two board meetings. And so we are hopeful for the next bargaining year. I'm anxious. We do have several new board members on board. along with the new superintendent, Dr. Soli, Dr. Dosti, and we also have several new negotiators. So we are very hopeful, and we hope, hopefully, I don't know, maybe you'll be surprised when you see our sunshine. So we do understand what's looming in front of us. We do, recognize COLA is currently 8.22%, and so thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Any other employee representatives? Okay, how about comments from the board members? Mr. Connexa?
I got just a quick one. It's teachers and a lot of folks, I guess, are on vacation, but there's still things going on at school. I noticed that there's a new roof going on at John Deere. Kind of drove by there and said, oh, yeah, putting on a roof. And I couldn't figure out what was going on at Creekside School, but then I realized that it's got to be the food bus coming by giving lunches, because in that parking lot was packed. Did I miss something here? But it was packed with people, so people are taking advantage of it. So things are still happening in the district. Not everybody's on vacation.
1,800 meals a day.
1,800 meals a day. Wow.
And you gotta remember, summer school is starting soon.
Yeah, but not yet.
We had administrators who were shaking it off.
Yeah, I see that. Any comments from the board?
I have just a couple.
A couple by Mrs. Farland.
Can I do my committee report too? Jeff and I went to service
Oh, of
committee.
course.
And it was fantastic. I just really want to say thank you to Alejandra. Her meetings are well organized, well thought out, and it's nice to see, and Jeff, you can probably talk about it more. The second thing was all the graduations. Many board members went to a variety of graduations. I personally spent the day Saturday exhausted. Very rewarding. Thank you to all the site people that do the work, all the principals, the custodians. It literally magically just appears, and I know at Hutchins Street and some of those places, they are moving them in and out quickly. So it's not lost on board members. You kind of leave with a little pep in your step, and by Friday night, I think we were all pretty tired. I also want to thank, congratulate Mr. Young for making it through all those handshakes, and you're kind of cutting your teeth on your first full year of graduation, so congratulations to you also. Committee meetings. I also was elected to CSBA, a delegate association. We had our first dinner meeting, and it was kind of a get to know each other. Very informative, and I will be attending 2 days early for those of you who are going to the CSBA conference in San Francisco. So I just added a little bit more. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, well, we had a great time last week. Actually, about this time. It started 4 in a row and more, seems like it. I want to actually, Mr. Warren, I'm surprised you have a tie on. You didn't go home.
I want to look better than Mr. Young.
That's a good reason.
Very professional.
It seems like all of us are very relaxed without it choking us right over here, so it's good. And we had all of us had that all last week. So we wore several different suits for every occasion, and
pretty dresses.
And yeah, pretty. And enjoyed the graduations. They were very honorable, and my God, what a district! My gosh, keep Mr. Young, keep them at Spanos for sure. I think you got to start working on that pretty soon. But anyway, I have no other comments except that thank you for attending this board meeting and being relaxed, and let's go to work during the summer and get all these negotiations ready and get ready to come back to school with 100% restfulness. That's what I call it. And actually, when I was teaching, I never had a break, but I think that most of the teachers that go for a break, they come back ready to refresh. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, your motion, please.
Motion to...
Motion by Mr. Porter to adjourn. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stroll. Board vote.
Aye.
Good. Mike, you have it on?
Did you get the time? You don't have to, you don't have to.
I just did it. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll see you next year.
We'll shake off the rest of the meeting.
Oh, yes, the one we went to together.